small little steps, which kind of like anchor you into this new idea, hopefully, that'll start taking hold of self-care, being healthcare, and that you're worth it and you should prioritize yourself.
Yeah.
That
And
is
how
our
small how
PSA.
small are these steps? We give you
Tiny.
3 steps. It takes you less than 2 minutes to do all 3, okay? And that might not seem like much, but the science supports starting super teeny. So, we give you super teeny.
Super teeny. You can't
Super
like
teeny.
so that your
That sounds like a
resistance.
drink. The
Super
super
teeny. Yeah,
teeny.
super teeny. Do you want that dry or
On the rocks.
on the rocks? I'll have a virgin super teeny, thanks.
It's an acai pomegranate chia
Ooh.
seed
Whoa.
with a splash of lime. The super teeny. Oh my gosh.
That sounds good.
Yeah, I think we need to have this on Saturday when we go out. On this week's Harness the Power of Planning podcast, Natascha and I talk about how to introduce your family into eating more plant-based meals. And also, we walk you through the 3 steps you need to pick the perfect planner. And what do we mean by perfect? We mean perfect for you, because there's no one planner that's perfect for everyone. On the next podcast, starting now.
Hi.
Hey everyone, happy to be here. I'm Alegre.
I'm Natascha.
And together we are Beyond Your Wildest Dreams, or BYWD, as we often say. And we are all about helping you prioritize yourself, save time, and accomplish your goals. And why is that important?
Why is that important? Well, I don't know. The Surgeon General said that being an American family parent is super stressful. So I don't know. Maybe it's important to your health and not your mental health, your physical well-being. Yeah, prioritizing yourself. And this doesn't just mean spa days and pedicures and stuff. Yeah, I mean it could mean that, and that's fun and that's nice. But we're talking about like the nuts and bolts everyday kind of.
Yeah,
self-care.
absolutely. Self-care as healthcare. And
let's normalize that.
Yes. Yeah. And I just actually want to give a plug for a book that I just finished reading called Hidden Valley Road.
Ooh.
And it's about a family with 12 children, 6 of whom were diagnosed as schizophrenics. And I think for me, the biggest takeaway from this book was how delicate mental health can be, like how stress can affect mental health, can have long-term consequences, I guess is the thing. And so, you might think like, oh, well, I'll slow down when I retire, or I'll slow down when it comes to the weekend. But, it's kind of like drinking water. You can't put off drinking water until Sunday and then like, I'm going to drink 55 glasses of water in one day.
Good luck. Good luck with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus,
and
especially since, just tidbit quick, you're not, what if the water you drink today hydrates you like 3 days from now? So it doesn't hydrate you today. So you just got to do it all the time. Same thing with the self-care. The self-care you do today has lasting effects. Now, I'm not saying it gives you effects 3 days from now, but you can't just squeeze it in, like you said, once a month or something and think that that's going to be enough, or just take care of yourself mentally. Like you said, on the weekends, there has to be ways that you can build it into your everyday to somehow.
Yeah. And our biggest tip for that is creating a morning ritual, which if you've been with us before, here is our bouquet of books. For anyone listening, we also upload this audio to the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. And so how to create a morning ritual is the topic of our book, Rock Your Morning. And all these books are 45-minute reads, and they are workbooks. So you won't just get the theory, we will actually get you working on the thing that will help you. And one of the Surgeon General's recommendations has to do with creating these sort of rituals. And actually, if you go to our website, hold on, let me find it, bywdreams.com. Let me pop it up on the screen. You can sign up. We actually read this amazing 70-page study on parental burnout. I guess we did this earlier this year. We read, you don't have to. And if you go to our website, you can get a 1-page cheat sheet of the study. And basically we summarize it, and we summarize its suggestions, a lot of which we
Mhm.
captured honestly in our book, which we wrote almost 3 years ago.
Right.
So,
Yeah, that cheat sheet is like, if you're somebody who needs evidence or support of like, hey, you know what I mean? Like, just, I mean,
which
I don't
we
know if
get
we're,
it. We need that.
I need that. You know, it's like, why should I get up earlier? Right. And by the way, your morning ritual does not necessarily mean you have to get up at 5 a.m. I just wake up at 5 a.m. anyway. Thank you, perimenopause. So I'm like, I'm up. So, you know, I'm so lucky like that. But, you know, if you need reassurance or science backed, study backed information that shows why it's important for you, you know, if you won't make those changes until you really see like the hard facts numbers, take a look at this cheat sheet, take a look at this one-page cheat sheet. It will give you all the evidence you need to back up, you know, starting these new habits, you know, because sometimes I'm definitely someone who needs to have that intellectual information to
Mhm.
motivate me to, you know, make those changes and maybe get my butt out of bed a little earlier to go ahead and start, you know, do that meditation practice where it would be just so much nicer to stay in bed sometimes, you know.
Yeah, and you never know where that little extra piece of information can come from. Oh, by the way, I forgot to do one thing. I wanna
Oh,
start every podcast with a poll from this little quote deck I have. So, okay.
love it.
Backing it up, let's look
Welcome.
at what and I have no idea what it is. So, I'm just gonna pull from the back and let's see. If there's something that makes you laugh, then every day's going to be okay. Tom Hanks. I love to laugh.
Oh,
I
yeah, laugh.
love to laugh. Ha, ha,
Ah,
ha, ha. That's Mary Poppins.
Mary Poppins. Yeah.
Yes. So there
um,
you go.
well, thanks, Tom Hanks, who's like whatever the equivalent of, he's America's sweetheart, whatever the equivalent of that is, America's dad or whatever. Although that might be Tim Walls now. But
Yeah, I actually saw a comedy show last night, and I'll just leave you with a quote from Aparna Nancharla because I just think she is so funny. If you haven't seen Aparna Nancharla, check her out. APARNA, and she 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 said that she has 2 cats and how living with cats is kind of like living with models. They just kind of swan around and drape themselves on furniture and come up to you and I'm like, "I'm hot. What do you bring to the game?" You know? It was so brilliant. So Aparna Nancharla, very funny woman. Okay, so you never know where that one piece of information that's going to make you do the thing that you've been thinking about forever. For instance, if you've listened to Natasha and I, then you know that for years I have been trying to get to bed earlier, and it's something I've really struggled with. However, the one piece of information that totally changed this for me, and I remember because it only happened about 6 weeks ago, and it was like, boom, the light went off. I'm like, okay, now I'm doing it was that so your brain releases chemicals during the night. We all probably know this or intuit this chemicals to help us, you know, clean our brain, to help us store memories, to help us
hmm
cement what we learned.
Yeah.
However, those chemicals are released in different quantities depending on the hour of the day. And the
Mm.
chemicals that are released before midnight tend to weigh more heavily on the cleaning and repair side, and the chemicals released after midnight work more on the storage and recording of learning. And the thing is there's a lot of brain science about, you know, this relationship between not sleeping through the night and cognitive
Mm.
issues later. You know, there's been a lot
hmm
spoken about with regards to perimenopause because sleeping through the night is always a challenge with hormonal changes. So, that one piece of
hmm
information, like, if I want optimum repair and cleaning of my brain, I need to get to bed earlier,
Night, night.
and
Yeah. hmm
that's done it for me. Like, before, it was a struggle to get to bed before 10. Now I've been getting to bed between 9 and 9:30, like, easily. So,
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. That's great.
yeah, you never
Yeah.
know where that information's gonna come
Yeah,
from.
that's a perfect example, right? It's that one little chunk of information that makes all the difference. So check out that cheat sheet that we have out there if you're struggling with the idea of prioritizing yourself and getting yourself into some kind of self-care that is really restorative for you. If you need some more evidence to And also, of course, the cheat sheet isn't just about the facts, but also we give you a bunch of little small little steps to start with, right? We're not
Yes.
talking about get up an hour early and do this whole elaborate thing. Small little steps, which kind of like anchor you into this new idea, hopefully, that'll start taking hold of self care, being healthcare, and that you're worth it and you should prioritize yourself.
Yeah,
That
and
is our
how
PSA.
small are these steps? We give you
Tiny.
3 steps. It takes you less than 2 minutes to do all 3, okay? And that might not seem like much, but the science supports starting super teeny. So, we give you super teeny.
Super teeny. You can't
Super
like
teeny.
so that your
That sounds like a
resistance.
drink. The
Super
super
teeny. Yes,
teeny
super teeny. Do you want that dry or
on the
on the
rocks.
rocks? Oh, the virgin super teeny. Thanks.
It's an acai pomegranate chia
Ooh.
seed
Whoa.
with a splash of lime. The
uh,
super teeny. Oh
that
my
kind of
gosh.
sounds
I
good,
Yeah,
honestly.
I think we need to have this on Saturday when we go out. Okay. So today's chit chat, as you know, we chit chat beforehand and then we have a topic. Today's topic is how to pick the perfect planner. But before that, our chit chat is about introducing or cooking or planning more plant-based eating for your family. And if you have questions
Hmm.
about this, wherever you're watching us, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, pop them into the comments. We will see them. We will answer them. And yeah, so Natasha's family has
Yeah.
been eating a lot more plant-based for a couple years now.
Yeah,
Tell us about this.
my eldest son about 2 years ago just decided he wanted to become vegetarian, which I always find ironic because during my pregnancy with him, I was a vegetarian for 11 years, but during my pregnancy with him, my body was like screaming for meat. And so I became a meat eater again during my pregnancy with him and then just continued
Same.
on. Yeah. Oh, same. Yeah. So, and then when he was about 11, it's funny, 11 years later, after I've been a vegetarian for 11 years, I became a
Oh,
meat eater for
funny.
11 years. He became a vegetarian. And so, I, as a family, it's something that we were already kind of had on our radar, like, hey, we should really kind of start thinking about having a little bit, a little more plant-based entrees in the evening for our meals and so forth. So we'd already been kind of like dancing around it. But then when my son became a vegetarian, there was no way around it. So
Mhm.
we're doing it. And one of the best advice that I had gotten from a friend of mine, she and her wife were planning, had just started really leaning towards more plant based, and she had suggested that we try these meal kits. And so I know it's not for everybody's budget, but if you're already getting a meal kit, or if it's something you've been considering and you can have it in your budget, and I just clicked the little box that said vegetarian. So we only got vegetarian meals. And we got 3 meals a week. And so that was something that kind of spring loaded us, or
Uh
springboarded us into having. So because I had, prior to my son being pregnant with my son, and when I was a vegetarian for those 11 years, I wasn't like the healthiest vegetarian.
Mhm.
I was like, as my son likes to call it, a mac and cheese vegetarian, because
Right.
it definitely liked dairy, and it definitely liked pasta, right? That was
Right,
like,
right.
and as I was, in the 11 years, I got a little bit more sophisticated, but I wanted to make something for my family that was really tasty and really healthy. And these meal kits really helped me go, oh yeah, right. Oh, chickpeas. Yeah. Oh, we can use this. We can use these
Mhm.
lentils. So at least of the 3 meals a week were from these meal kits. The other thing that we transitioned into, the other way that we helped ourselves transition was, if I'm making burgers, I'm making him an Impossible Burger. If it's taco
Mhm.
night, I do half turkey and half Impossible or Beyond Meat kind of thing. These meat substitutions are wild. I mean, when I was vegetarian for 11 years, I mean, you'd only get like a bean patty, like
Mhm.
that was it. Dr. Prager's like vegetable patty, like that was basically it. If you wanted like a veggie burger, it was like, nothing that resembled meat. And I'm not saying that that's worse than or better than, but that was your options were limited, is my point. And now it's like, my goodness. I mean, so as a family, we will have Beyond Meat sausages and whatnot. And, I don't even bother making 2 different meats or meat alternative at a meat every meal
Mhm.
by any stretch, because the rest of the meat eaters in the family can't tell the difference.
Mm.
And ultimately, I think that just leaning towards more plant-based has been way easier than I think I was originally kind of like making it out to be initially. Like, even though, I had been a vegetarian for 11 years, but now just shifting gears after becoming a mom and having kind of like sort of a playbook of meals that I would go to suddenly
Right.
go, okay, we're going to go meatless. That the meal service, and of course, so many different options out there for the meat alternatives. It's wild. It's great.
And are you still doing the meal service, or did you just kind of use it to, like, get some new ideas around meals or
Yeah, we're not using it now, right? But what I did do is save the recipe cards of the ones that my family was like, "Whoa, this is great!" So I saved
Right,
those
right.
recipe cards. So
Yeah,
I'll refer back to those.
yeah,
Yeah. So I'm using that. Yeah, we don't use the service anymore. Actually, we
yeah, yeah.
kind of got ourselves established, and I was like, "All
Right,
right, this is great." It also kind of came in and helped me out during like the pandemic time
right,
when I was
right.
just feeling overwhelmed about all the meals that I was having at home. So it was helpful in that way. But
Yeah,
yeah, we don't use it now. I just saved the recipe cards for the things that we really liked. So if my family had
yeah,
a good reaction to it, it went in my little stash.
right. No,
Hmm.
that's such a great way to get started is, like, it just gives you that little bump, that little, uh, boost of confidence,
Yeah.
some new flavor profiles,
Mhm.
for those of you
Helps you like establish a new kind of like mindset or skill around it where like before
Yes.
you're like, what do I make? I don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's a little bit of hand-holding. So,
Exactly.
yeah, that's great. So I my story was similar. I was vegetarian before I got pregnant. My 3rd trimester, I couldn't seem to get enough calories, and I was craving a turkey burger like crazy. And, yeah, so we haven't gone back, and although we eat a lot of plant-based meals, we definitely eat way more meat than I guess someone who is saying they're more plant-centric would
Hmm.
eat. And, for me, I'm super health motivated. I'm not as I have a certain amount of vanity, but I'm definitely much more health motivated than looks motivated. And so the thing that really kicked me in the butt is that for the last few years, I've been seeing my cholesterol creep up after going from having like super low cholesterol.
Hmm.
And for anyone who doesn't know, your female body uses cholesterol to make hormones. So when you enter perimenopause, your body starts using less and less cholesterol. So your cholesterol creeps up.
I did not know that. That is really interesting.
Yep.
Go on.
It's
Tell me more.
inevitable, right? You can
Uh-huh.
eat exactly the same way and it is inevitable. Your cholesterol is going to go up.
Hmm.
And so I wrote down the number, but I think the acceptable here it is. My cholesterol is 208 and it should be below 199. So it's just that side
Yeah.
of not good.
Hmm.
And I was like, okay, it's time. I need to nip this in the bud. And, I've been watching it go up. Now, I've been listening to this book, and I'll pop it up on the screen, called How Not to Die by Dr. Michael Greger. And if I'll put it in the show notes for anyone listening to the podcast. And I've been listening to this book for months, maybe 6 or 8 months because
Oh.
it's very dense. It's a I
Okay.
I don't know how many pages it is, but as an audiobook, it is long. So it seems like it's a lot of pages. Or or maybe it's just because there's no plot driving it, so it's a little you're like, "Okay, I need to take a little bit of a break." So I've taken some breaks,
Hmm.
and, if you look at our Instagram or my personal Instagram, which is alegraramos.com, you'll see that I've been talking about this book because, it's not How Not to Die Ever, right? He's not trying to make you immortal. That sounds like a fiction book I would read. No, he's talking about how not to die from preventable things. So, how not to die from cholesterol, how not to die from blood
Mm.
pressure, how not
Mhm.
and it's very insightful, although a little bit dry, the first, I don't know, 3/4. The last fourth, it really picks up speed because he starts talking more about, like, what you can do, what you should do, and that was just this book is really what kicked me in the butt about eating more plant-based because as he was describing his quote unquote, prescriptions for healthier living. It was all how I used to eat before I got pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I've done this before.
Right.
I just
Yeah.
have gotten way off track. I mean, I remember my husband and I went years without eating a refined carbohydrate. And so now that I have these cholesterol numbers that I need to deal with, I am motivated to do it. And actually, I have right here my breakfast I didn't finish, which is sauteed mushrooms and kale on a bed of millet with black beans. And so I have been making the switch hardcore. And my husband, as long as it tastes good, he doesn't care because he's happy to eat whatever. So no complaints there. There are complaints from my kiddo. And I've just had to be really honest with her about the fact that mommy and daddy's cholesterol. So my husband's cholesterol is also elevated, which, I don't know exactly why that is. I haven't dived into why his might be elevated as well. But I was like, mommy and daddy's cholesterol is elevated, baby. Like, if you want us around, we need to bring it down.
Seriously.
And the other thing too is that the end of the book, How Not to Die, goes into great detail about, how eating processed foods really hijacks your brain. Because so if you think about it like this, when there's really loud music playing, what do? You turn it down because it's just too much input. Same
Mm-hmm.
thing happens when you eat highly processed food. Your body turns down your taste buds because the sugar or the fat, it's just so much input that it actually needs to turn it down. And it keeps turning it down, which means you need to eat more sugary. You need to eat more fat.
Mm-hmm.
You need to eat higher levels of those in order to get the same reaction, right? We've all heard this before
I mean, it's like heroin or, you know what I mean? Like
drugs.
any kind of
Exactly.
drug, right? You have to, you have
Exactly.
to just get more and more to get that high, right? Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So
Mm-hmm.
I have decided that I'm going to play that part of the book for my kiddo so she can hear it because
Yeah.
I had never heard it explained that way. And, maybe that will help her with this transition that we are making.
Yeah. Talk about needing information to have something be understood and stick. My kid's the same way.
Yeah.
Like he needs hard facts. I have to back up. I have to come with receipts as to why it's important for him to get sleep at night as a teenager, that kind of thing. Why do I have to go to bed so early? Well, let's sit down and see why, honey.
Yeah.
So same thing with this vegetarian. That's great. Mm-hmm.
The other tip I would have for transitioning to more plant-based meals is there are so many amazing ways to make your food taste good, like after the fact, that are healthy. Like, for instance, one thing that he's a big fan of is nutritional yeast.
Oh, I love
And
nutritional yeast.
here I was gifted this
I
nutritional
really love it.
yeast. I was gifted this nutritional yeast. The company is called Nooch.
Oh,
Do you know
nice.
Nooch?
No, I don't. No.
Okay. So the company is called Nooch, and the Nooch I was gifted has black truffle in it.
What?
Black truffle
Oh
nutritional
my
yeast.
God.
I put a tablespoon. Oh my God, it makes everything. And
Yeah.
what I really want to do is air popped popcorn with that nutritional yeast.
Yes. Yes.
So good.
First of all,
And
I love anything with truffle, and nutritional yeast is like the unsung hero of like the vegan, vegetarian, not
it's like
plant-based
cheesy
world.
salt.
It is cheesy salt. It's crazy.
Cheesy salt.
And it's good for you, which is so crazy. And it just makes it taste so yummy and cheesy. It's delicious.
Yeah, it makes it taste so good. And like caramelized onions, caramelized onions and caramelized mushrooms. And by caramelized, that just means cooked, right? In a
Mm-hmm.
teensy bit of oil. They make everything taste good. So
So good.
yeah, so there are ways to make vegetarian cooking delicious, or let's say plant-based. And I really like that Dr. Greger uses the term plant-based because he says
Mm-hmm.
he likes to focus on what you can eat, not what you can't, because there are
Mm-hmm.
so many delicious foods out there.
So
So
many.
I think that's really smart. So, start small. Start with, meatless Mondays and then go to meatless Tuesdays.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just even replacing 1 or 2 meals a week with plant-based can make such a huge difference. We really, it's just centric, like the meat is the core of your meal, and then everything
Yeah.
else like around it. And it's not necessary. It's not.
Yeah. And
Mhm.
actually, that was a big mind shift for me, was thinking, okay, if I take the things I usually think of as side dishes, like I would make this
Mm,
what I'm eating right now for breakfast as a side dish.
right.
Just think of it as shifting your side dishes to the majority of your
Mhm.
plate.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's so start small, like with all things. If you want permanent change, it's best to start small and then, go into it. But like my family, we try to only eat out once or twice a week. And so I'm going to suggest at some point, not yet, because again, small changes, but
Yeah, yeah.
at some point I'm going to suggest to our family that we save eating out for when we eat any sort of animal-based products or animal-based ingredients, I should say.
Mhm.
So that's my goal. So there you
Great.
go.
Very cool. I mean, and bringing your whole family on this health journey too. Yeah. Yeah, your daughter is not as into my younger son, the non-vegetarian, is
Yeah.
like meat. Like if we ever have like steak or something, he's super excited, like it's just he's very meat focused, but it doesn't mean that he has a problem when we have vegetarian meals at all. Like he's not,
Mhm.
he's even though when we do have meat, he's very excited. Um, but when we don't, he's, if it like you said, if it's delicious, nobody cares.
Well, and the other thing too is there's something to be said about saving nutrient dense animal meals for people who are really growing, pregnant
Mhm.
women, or the
Mhm.
elderly. Like it is very nutrient dense, and in
Right.
traditional societies, I was an anthropology major, right, an undergrad, like when when a hunt is successful, they will give the best parts to these populations that require a little more
Mm.
nutrition.
Mhm. Makes
So,
sense. Yeah.
that's not
Mhm.
necessarily a bad thing that he's, needing meat at this stage in his life since he's a little bit
Oh
younger and still
yeah, for
growing.
sure. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Good. Yeah.
Okay. So, let's talk about how to pick the perfect planner. The perfect planner. And the first thing we want to say is that there is no one perfect planner. The
Mhm.
perfect planner is the one that you will use.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Bam. That's it. That's it. So we're going to share with you, the things that we look out for when picking a planner, and why we look out for them and why we think that they're important. But again, if it's a planner, if it's something you're going to use, when we first started this journey, Allegra had put out, hey, everybody, send me, like if you have a planner you don't use anymore, an old planner or a planner that you started using but didn't, can I grab them? And I want to take a look at them because we wanted to just
Yeah.
take a look at all different kinds. And my goodness, we saw everything from like your regular everyday, like $25 planner to like a $300 custom, and
Custom
the
planner.
custom planner that this person maybe got through, half of February. You know what I mean? And then they
Yeah.
just, maybe that might even be generous. So, ultimately, again, if you're just good at like, you want to just use something from Staples for, $10, great,
Mhm.
awesome, whatever. But we're going to give you the things that we look out for in finding or looking for, and then using the perfect planner.
And there's 3 tips, and these are 3 steps. And so step 1 is pick a good exterior. And what does that look like? An exterior that is enticing to you. Natasha and I, our favorite brand is this exterior that has a very, I call it, has a very talisman-like property to me. Like it makes me want to interact with it. It's like, "Ooh,
I know, right? Isn't it
I'm."
pretty? I just love
Yeah.
this.
It's so pretty.
Yeah.
It has built-in affirmations. I love the illustrations. So that is step 1, is pick a good exterior in terms of something that you want to spend time with. If you are all about the LBD, the little black dress, okay, go for the
Go
LBD.
for it. Hmm.
The other thing too is that in terms of the perfect exterior, look for one that is a good size. I like the bigger size planner. So for those listening to the podcast, I'm looking at a planner that is basically like the size of a page, 8.5 by 11, versus one that is about 2/3 that size. So it can fit into a purse, the 2/3 one. But for me, the 2/3 one is just a little too small for everything I need to write down.
Yeah. And like I made the mistake of ordering the smaller one this year. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try and do it. But let me tell you, it just wasn't the right size. So I'm going back to like that fuller size one, and mostly because now I also love how sleek and stuff this is. But in years past, I'd gotten a bright colored one like you have, like this, like rose gold or, like that turquoise. And that is also the thing about this, as sleek and cool as this looks, when I put this on top of my black binder, it disappears on my desk. You know what I mean? And so it became hard. It's smaller and it became harder for me because I'm the visual cue of like, oh, open your planner, take a look at your planner today. I really do need that visual cue. And so it being smaller and it being black did not work for me as well this year. And so I recommend, if you're somebody who needs visual cues, if you're going and looking at your planner isn't like a habit that you've already established on the daily basis, get something that screams at you. Like maybe you want a construction orange or something, so that helps too.
And I mean, here's some other planners. You can see they get super bright and colorful, or here's a nice purple leather, a little more elegant. Elegant.
And if you're somebody who sorry, go ahead.
This is like a Franklin planner, right? So much more corporate looking. Whatever works for you. But think
if you're somebody who uses a digital planner, why are we talking about paper planners in this world of digital age?
Yes, thank you.
We really, and I do use my Google Calendar as well. Like I use a kind of a hybrid system, and my Google Calendar is really just for like appointments, like, especially because I'll get a call while I'm at the grocery store or a text message or something from a client, and I need to put that in right away. I don't have my planner on me, right? So the digital, that tool of like my Google Calendar is really invaluable, but I use it in concert with this. This is about life design and life planning. That's what's happening in here. And we get more into that in other stages, but we're talking most about picking a planner. But why a hard copy planner is really for your planning, right? And the digital is really for your like appointments or calendaring.
Or your Zoom links. Or
your Zoom, right, exactly.
Or to set digital alarms, right?
Right, yeah.
Okay, so the next step is to make sure it has enough pages. Most planners are really just calendars, and there's no space for note taking or brainstorming or doodling if you like to doodle. And it's interesting to me that a product this size calls itself a planner, when really it's just enough space for basic calendaring. One other tip that I want to give to the moms out there, Natasha has 2 kids. I have 1 kid. I have found that one monthly calendar suffices for keeping track of whatever I need to keep track of for my daughter. However, I have met some parents who like more monthly pages so that they can track their kids' activities separate from their own. And I think that's super smart. And in that case, you might want a planner that is more of a 3-ring binder type of planner so that you can insert those extra monthly pages in there to help keep everything cleaner and work better. Really, it's just about what works for you. So we have found that approximately 250 pages is good enough to suffice for a year of note-taking, planning, calendaring, doodling. There's even a little bit of a scrapbooking component for me for the planners because I'll put in like tickets. So here's this year's planner. I was showing you next year's planner.
So funny. I know this is mine, but look at Allegra's, like mine. Yours has been well
So
loved.
this planner used to look like this. I always loved doing an end of year, like, this is my year that has passed, and here is my new year.
Your new
together.
Yeah.
But I do a little bit of scrapbooking where I put in things like here's a belly band from a restaurant I went to recently that was really yummy, and I did a scavenger hunt at this Art Deco building that I went to this weekend. So I'll just put in fun little memories, and that's how my planner ends up. But it starts out as
Love
250
it.
pages. And the great thing about 250 pages is that it's enough space to have monthly pages and weekly pages, which we think are really important because monthly is where you kind of have the overview of your appointments. And then daily is where you get into the nitty gritty and put in things like your exercise time and like, oh, I'm going to call a friend. Like those aren't necessarily things you're going to put in the monthly planner,
Right.
monthly pages. So we do recommend having monthly and weekly pages. And then enough space to brainstorm and brainstorm and note take and scrapbook or doodle if you want. And about
Yeah.
250 is
And if
good.
you're somebody who keeps lists, like, somebody like, well, Allegra just gave me a great book recommendation. I have a page dedicated in here for books that people have recommended, films they've
Yes.
recommended, and just having it all kind of in one place is
Yes.
really helpful. And then it's also kind of fun, like when I go ahead and watch that movie or listen to that book, because I don't really read anymore. I get to like highlight it and say, "Yay, I did that!" So it's kind of nice. It's fun. I love that you use it as a scrapbook. I have attempted to. I haven't been as disciplined about actually gluing stuff in there. I've stuck some things in pages, but what a great way to, if you're not somebody who is like a scrapbooker, because that's like a whole nother level of,
Yes.
of crafting and whatnot, but you
Right.
still also would enjoy tokens of those memories. How great, because also, things start to meld together. You look back and you're like, when did I go see that show or whatever, it's
Yeah.
there. It's fun.
Well, and the scrapbooking part kind of touches on tip number 3, which is look for specialty pages like habit trackers and review pages built into the planner. Now, it's not in you can find habit trackers in maybe 10% of planners. Review pages, I've only seen in like 2 or 3 brands. And our favorite brand does have it, and I'll pop up our favorite brand. This is it. This is the one that I've been using for, I don't know, 7, 8 years, the better part of a decade. And it comes in many different colors, has many different designs. They even have just simple black, but they include habit trackers and review pages. Now, what's a habit tracker? A habit tracker is a way to keep track of things that you're trying to work on, such as drinking 8 glasses of water, going to bed before 10 p.m., exercise, that sort of thing. It's just an opportunity for you to check it off, and keep yourself accountable because that's
Right.
where you really like are living your life in the daily, right? Review pages are something where at the end of each month and at the end of the year, you kind of look back on the month and year and see what you've done, what you've learned, what you haven't done, what you'd like to do more of. It's just an opportunity for reflection. And I find that it's a little bit of an advanced portion of the planner. I know it's something that even after decades of using planners, I really resisted at first, and now I just absolutely love it because, Oprah has a saying, like, "Celebrate the more you celebrate, the more you have to celebrate." It really does just make me
True.
more aware of, like, all it just makes me really grateful when I do my monthly review. And it
Yeah, for
also makes me
sure.
aware of the things I wanna work on.
It really does help, and because we're how many times a year do you find yourself like, oh my god, it's end of October already, oh my gosh, it's Halloween already, and if you haven't taken the time, and we're talking about, we do it for an hour, so like you think about how many hours you have in a month, um and you could get it to the point where you do it even quicker than that, if
Mhm.
if that becomes, but to just do it and to take stock and say, this is what I did this past week, this past month. These are the accomplishments. These are the things I wanted to do, I didn't do. Because next thing you know, another month's going to go by. And if there really is something that's important to you, or that you want to start establishing a new habit about, taking stock at the end of each month is such a great way to keep yourself on track.
Yes. And actually, we have a monthly course correct that we've done as a podcast. If you're listening to the podcast notes, I'll pop that down below. But Natasha and I have come up with our own monthly review. It's a 2-pager. And what's great about I just print them up and put them in the back of my planner. What's great about doing my semi scrapbooking, if you will, is that when I go back to do my monthly review, it makes it really easy to see like, oh, here are some of the cool things I've done because I have the tickets or the stubs or the photographs that I put in here. So that makes it easy for me to go back and review. And again, it just goes to Oprah's saying of, like the more that you celebrate, the more you have to celebrate. My planner, it's not just a place for me to do work. It's really kind of like a document of my life. I don't journal, if you will. This is kind of my journal. And so that's what it does for me doing that.
Right. It's great. It has multiple uses, right? Scrapbook, planner, journal. Yeah, it has, you can use it that way where you have
notebook.
It does like triple duty easily.
Yes. By the way, if you're into bullet journaling, and for those of you who don't know what that is, bullet journaling is when you take a blank notebook and you turn it into a planner. Again, just look for something about 250 pages. There are so many tutorials on how
to my goodness.
bujo, as it's called, B-U-J-O, bujo. I aspire to bujo someday.
I mean, that's a whole nother level. It's awesome. It's great. I mean, it's fun. And I've bought before Allegra turned me onto this planner. I bought a bujo with a bullet journal with the intention of setting it up, and making it really cute and pretty and stuff. I did not get very far, but man, they're cute.
Yeah. So here's like a very basic bujo layout for like a calendar. There's so many people who do it and do it well that if you have the artistic inclination and time to want a bujo, check it out. It looks super fun. I wish I had the bandwidth, maybe in 5 or 10 years.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So those are our tips for how to pick a perfect planner. Remember, the perfect planner is the one that you're actually using. So step 1, pick a good exterior, both in look and size. Step 2, make sure it has enough pages. And then step 3, look for some of these specialty pages like habit trackers and review pages, because those just really help you stay accountable and stay on track for the year.
Also, one little pro tip, because not everybody knows about this, and it was a revelation to me a couple of years ago, that you can look out for weekly planners that start on a Sunday or a Monday. A lot of different planners have that option. So take a look and just say, are you a person that thinks of your week in terms of Monday through Sunday, or are you a person that thinks Sunday through Saturday? So you can have those different options. That was a revelation to me, that I could have a weekly planner that started on Monday. I always just thought, it's going to be Sunday to Saturday, right? And for me, that just makes more sense to my mind. So take a look at that too. If that's something that you think might be a factor for you, they're out there. There are planners that start on Monday.
Yes, great tip. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We will see you next week at the same time, or again, if you want to listen to us as a podcast, go to the Harness the Power of Planning podcast wherever you listen, and be sure to like and subscribe. It helps, with the algo.
The algo.
The algo. Thanks for joining us. Dream wild, wild dreamers. Thanks for joining us for the Harness the Power of Planning podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you listen.